From milk cows and chickens to goats, homeschooling, baking bread, good books, and way too much coffee. Thanks for joining us as we homestead in the real world. Well, hello friends. It is Rebel Gardening Week here on the homestead. So I did want to start this a little bit like a week ago, but I really wanted to get through the canning one, the part one of canning, just because there was so much information. So with that said, we're going to start Rebel Gardening. And I'm going to tell you right now, there are probably only 3 main rules of gardening that I follow. Really, really simple. They all came about due to trial and error. All the other rules of gardening, I've either broken, don't care about, or maybe have never heard of. Okay, so my top 3 rules that I follow. Okay, rule number 1. I always start my tomato seeds inside. When I first started homesteading back in 2007, I planted my very first garden. I have never at this point seen what a tomato start looks like. I wanted to do it myself, yada, yada, yada. I didn't read anything. I just dove in, okay? I happened to direct sow my seeds into my new little garden, thinking I was doing it right. I happened to plant in an area that the previous year we must have had pumpkins in that area, and some of the seeds spelt out, and I got some volunteer pumpkins. I did not know they were pumpkins, so when they started sprouting, I was all excited. I've got tomatoes, and then they started vining. Well, I know tomatoes vine, okay, but I didn't know how they vined because it was my very first time. Anyway, long story short, I didn't realize I didn't have tomatoes until they came and started growing pumpkins. So, rule number 1, plant my tomato seeds indoors. Now, do I use a grow light? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. All depends on how I feel, if I want to hassle with putting the lights up. I will say that my starts don't get as lanky when I use a grow light, but even lanky starts can get fixed, and I will show you, I think I have a video that I can add to this to show you how you fix lanky starts. If not, on my Instagram page, I know I have a reel there that shows you how to fix lanky starts. Rule number 2. Fennel is a very finicky plant. And if you want the fennel to grow and you want your other plants to grow, my advice from experience is do not plant fennel with any other plants. No companion planting, no nothing. Put it in its own container garden, off in the back 40, away from your other plants. It will be happy and your other plants will thank you. Of course, I come out to record because it's nice and sunny and light breeze, and now we're getting a little bit of a sun shower, I guess. So before I run in, rule number 3, plant for your zone, okay? If you don't know what zone you are, in the description, I will link to the USDA website or wherever it is that will let you put in your address and your zip code or whatever, and it will tell you what your zone is. And the big reason for that is because there are plants that you can plant in zone 7, 8 that you cannot keep alive in zone 3, zone 4. Okay? So those are my 3 rules that I do follow. Everything else I'm going to tell you is optional. I'm also going to mention about the zone thing. When buying plants from a big box store, and I say big box because your local greenhouses should know better. Okay, so when you're purchasing from, say, a Walmart or a Menards or a Lowe's or a Home Depot or whatever, okay, check the label of the plant, because they will sell something that is for zone 8 in a zone 4 area. So you just spent $20 on XYZ plant, and you get it home and you think, oh, this is going to be great, and it does nothing. Okay, I don't know why they do that. Profit, they don't care. It's too much effort to separate plants by zone. I don't know. I am just putting that out there for you so that you don't get stuck with a zone 7 plant and you're in zone 4. All right, so we've gotten over the rules that I follow, the only rules that I really follow. Let's do a garden tour while we discuss some of the other things that I break, bend, twist, whatever. All right, so first I'm going to give you just an overview of my garden. All right, now, is this a huge garden? Absolutely not. There is enough space here to plant what my family needs, plus a little. We had to manage our normal gardening expectations due to land, and now we're using raised beds and things like that because this is a new homestead. So for right now, this is what we have. And we moved here to this homestead in 2023, so we've had a couple years under our belt with it. And this will be year 2 on this in-ground bed. And so far things are okay. But now let's go and we'll do kind of row by row stuff. So one of the first things you probably noticed is we do the till method. Okay. I have always done the till method. I have done container gardening in small things such as water troughs, buckets, whatever. The raised beds were a newer thing for us when we moved here. I am not against the no-till method, but for me, it is 100 times more work to haul in dirt and lay the cardboard and, do all the things to do the no-till method versus tilling, amending soil as needed, and going from there. I guess it's personal preference how you want to do it. I'm not saying one way is better. I'm just saying this is how I do it. And I'm going to be honest, you're not going to change my mind about that. So we'll kind of take this as a plant by plant and row by row or section by section kind of a thing, so that hopefully I don't forget the rules that I want to tell you you can break. The first thing you'll notice, these are my strawberries. They are definitely not in rows. Personally, I like the look of rows. However, strawberries with their runners, if you accidentally pull the mother instead of the runner, which I may or may not have done, they no longer line up in the pretty row that you maybe once originally planted them in. But they still grow. As you can see, we have lots of flowers. Okay, lots of buds. This is great. This is absolutely wonderful. So you might have also noticed that there are areas of clustering in my strawberry patch. That is because I don't subscribe to the you have to have so many inches of space in between each plant, okay? What I go by is, what is the plant going to look like when it gets older, when it's mature? How much space does that take up? Can I get by with putting them a little closer together, even as they mature? Are they going to overshadow each other, or maybe just rub some leaves? Okay. So I am not of the rule following that you have to space out your plants a certain amount. Okay. This is another example of where I don't necessarily space them out based on a certain feet length apart or whatever. These are my raspberries, okay? And they will get bigger, they will bush out. However, I can trim them, I can prune them, I can get them back to a mature level where they're not terribly encroaching on each other. Okay, so that really is how I justify my planting space, is on what their mature height, width, whatever is actually going to be. That will tell me how I need to plant them. Okay, so there are the strawberries. This we just put in this year. It's just a little walkway, nothing big. And then now here are the potatoes. Okay, so this is just a Kennebec potato. They grow big enough that we can use them for baked potatoes. They mash up good, they taste good. I can use them for hash browns, french fries, yada, yada, yada. They store well for us throughout the winter in the basement. Other than that, there really is no specific reason why I use this variety. I just do. So one of the big questions is, do you hill or mound your potatoes? There is no right or wrong way. It is really personal preference. Some years I have, some years I haven't. I guess it depends on my mood. What hilling your potatoes does is, because a potato doesn't grow off of the roots, okay? It actually grows off of the stem that is underground of your potato plant. So when your ground is flat, the stem is underneath, and you only have so much area to work with of that stem. If you mound it, okay, you're basically adding more dirt. So that stem has to grow up for the leaves to come out the top. Now you've got more stem, which in turn could make more potatoes. So another rule that can be broken is the planting your potatoes on Good Friday. I normally do plant my potatoes on Good Friday. The reason has nothing to do with the time it takes to grow my potatoes or anything like that. Usually, especially in my zone, Good Friday comes right about that time where the ground has thawed enough where it can be worked. It's warm enough that it's not going to freeze out your potato. The ground is probably moist enough from the snow melt and all that kind of stuff. It is just a date and a holiday that you can kind of gauge a planting time on. All right, so let's tour the raised beds. These raised beds I actually bought at Home Depot. I bought them online, had them shipped here when we first moved to this homestead, because I could not put an in-ground garden right here. And the reason why is that septic mound right there. It is, I want to say it's 25 feet, 20 feet, somewhere in that vicinity from the base of your septic mound that you should plant an in-ground. So this one is fine. This would not have been. And this is where we had the space when we first moved in to do the garden. So that's why we decided to go with raised beds. There are 8 total. They are 8 by 2 by 4. I think it was 8 by 2 by 4. Okay. These ones were a little more spendy, but I got them because I knew that they were going to last. And at that time, I had the money to invest in this because I knew that my garden was going to have to be primarily the raised beds from here on out. And at that time, we didn't have plans to put this part of the garden in. Ooh, excuse me. And so I knew I needed something that was going to last. So in this first bed here, we have green beans. These are bush green beans. There was 3 rows of them, as you can see, right there, right here. Some of the seeds didn't come up this year. It is still early enough that I could probably add some more seed to it. However, I'm not really, why would I go out and buy, you know, a thing of $4 seeds or whatever so that I can plant 5 seeds? It doesn't make sense to me. So I'm just going to be happy with what I have and move on from there. And then after the green beans, we have my box of weeds. All right, so here's the deal. I am planting garlic in here in the fall. And so there was nothing in here, no real reason for me to weed at this moment. I will, in the next, I don't know, maybe a week or so, I will come and pull some of these big ones out because I don't want them going to seed and it blowing into my other beds. But for the most part, the only reason this is full of weeds is just because I don't have anything to plant in it yet until fall. And then these are the onions. So now we had talked a little bit about planting, having plants closer together and what they look like when they mature and whatever. Onions get fat, you know, they get round. So I spaced these according to the eyeball method and an approximate size of what they will be like when they get round. And then I used grass clippings for a mulch. I can add another layer because I see I've got looks like a little bit of clover coming up, so I can add another good layer of the grass clippings. The thing about using grass clippings as a mulch, 2 things. Number 1, you want to use it fresh cut. Because it's got the moisture in it still, because not only are you using this as a weed barrier or a weed suppressant, but you're also using it to help contain moisture. Okay, number 1. The other thing about using grass clippings, you need to make sure that you don't have any weeds in your yard that have went to seed or such as dandelions. Okay, that's a big one. If you've got the white puffs and you mow them down, all those little seeds are going to get into your grass clippings, and you are going to have dandelions growing. Next bed. This is a combination of weeds and peppers. Sweet peppers only in here. Here is kind of where I guess companion planting. I don't know if I want to call it companion planting, but this is a good example. I don't plant hot peppers and sweet peppers together because as they grow bigger, they can cross-pollinate, and your sweet peppers end up tasting a little spicier than you had planned. Okay, so while you can plant them near each other, it probably wouldn't be the best to plant them right next to each other. Okay, in this case, if I was going to do so I've got the sweet peppers. If I wanted to do hot peppers, I would probably plant them over there in that bed just to give it enough space in between. Another thing, I know it is kind of popular for people to pluck the heads off of their pepper plants. It'd be like, hold on, like this right here would probably be. And what it does is that creates, it makes it bush out instead of growing vertical. Now, because of my zone and my growing times, it does not work out that way for me to do that. By the time it would start flowering and growing peppers, our season has come to an end and the weather has gotten too cold for them anyway. So here we do not pop the tops off. We just let them grow. Okay. Now, something that we do eat an abundance of is tomatoes. And I know, because of how I plant and space things out, I know I could get 4 tomato plants on each side, whether they be Roma, Amish paste, whether they are cherry tomatoes, big boys, beefsteaks, whatever. I can safely get 4 plants on each side. Okay. Now, you'll also see I have this nice little space in the middle that I could plant something. What would I plant in the middle there? Well, I know that when tomatoes grow up, they are going to get bushy. They're going to cause shade. So plants that like cooler, such as broccoli, lettuce, things like that, I could plant in the middle. But I could probably... That is one way we maximize garden space, is by planting closer together and planting, if you want to call it companion planting, I guess that's fine. But it's not necessarily companion planting, because companion planting is planting plant A that benefits plant B, plant B that benefits plant A. Okay. So in the aspect of, if I were to plant lettuce in the middle, yes, plant A is going to benefit plant B because it would be shady. All right. I also use mulch in here, or grass clippings in here for mulch. My goal this year is to weed as little as possible. So I will be later today filling these back up, because I can see there's a few weeds that have popped through. And I would rather not weed if I don't have to. We are a tomato loving family, from chili base to spaghetti sauce, pizza sauce, just tomatoes in general to eat, fresh eating, just canning tomatoes to put in like beef stews and things like that. We are a tomato loving family. Now, when it comes to tomatoes, do I prune my tomatoes? Sometimes, yeah, if I'm bored. I'll pull the suckers out. And if you don't know what the suckers are, so I have a reel on Instagram that shows you better than probably what I'm doing here. But in this V area here, see how that little thing is trying to pop itself out? That'd be a sucker. Okay. Suckers, if you left them, it's not going to kill your tomato plant, because it's just adding more leaves to your plant. The whole purpose of pruning your tomatoes is so that your plant is putting more effort into the fruit or vegetable. In this particular case, the tomatoes, is the fruit, than making new leaves. Okay, you will more than likely, if you prune your tomatoes, you will get bigger tomatoes. You might not get as many, but you'll get bigger. Okay, if you don't prune them and you just let them bush, because some people grow bushes. That's just the way it is. I've grown bushes. I've also done the sucker picking. Bushes will give you a lot of tomatoes. However, they're going to be smaller. Okay, they can, in that vicinity. Messy gardens still produce, people. We can talk succession planting. Basically what that is you are planting, let's say, beets. Okay, beets are a quick turnaround vegetable. You can plant them, and then I think it's like 40 days, give or take, after harvest, you can replant them again, and you can get a good couple crops out of it, especially in my zone. You can get a good couple crops out of your beets if you plant them right after the other. Another thing that people, when they talk about succession planting, you could do, let's say you plant beets, and then after you harvest those, you turn around and you plant broccoli. Okay, or you turn, I don't know if I'd plant broccoli because broccoli kind of likes the cooler weather, but you could plant, depending on your zone, you could probably plant sweet corn right after that. Okay, so that's another type of succession planting. Another is more staggered planting. So let's say week 1 you plant your lettuce, okay? And then in another week you plant another row of lettuce, and then in another week you plant another row of lettuce. So now you've got 3 rows of lettuce, but they're all growing at different rates, okay? So in essence, by the time the first row pops up and you've harvested some of it, now your middle row is going to start to be able to harvest. All right, I gotta make dinner, so I had to get out of the garden. Let's talk just a little bit more about companion planting, and then we're gonna get into soil amending that you can do for free or cheap, basically, where you're not putting chemicals or chemical fertilizers onto your plants. And it'll help you if, let's say, you have an established raised bed and you just need to amend it. We'll talk about that as well. All right, so the big thing with companion planting is, I think I alluded to it when we were outside. You're making sure plant A and plant B can be beneficial to each other and or not be in competition with each other. Now, you can get as deep into this as you want, you know, planting tomatoes by peppers. Are they fighting for this? Are they, you know, fighting for that? I don't get that into it because, number one, I'm rebel gardening, okay? I don't follow all these rules. I want easy. I want simple and easy, number one. Number two, when you are planting with minimal space and you have to get the max yield from that space, you don't always have the luxury of thinking companion planting. Also, if you are keeping up with your soil amendments and fertilizing and things like that, there should be really no reason that plant A and plant B are fighting for the same nutrients. There should be enough to go around. So these are just some of the reasons why I don't delve really deep into the whole companion planting thing. Other than, I guess the only real, I don't know if it's a rule that I would follow when it comes to the what should or shouldn't be planted next to each other, are things that can cross-pollinate, like I explained outside. Sweet peppers, hot peppers pollinating with your sweet peppers can make your sweet peppers spicy. Another thing is gourds. So like, don't plant squash right next to your pumpkins, because then you end up with something called squashkins. All right, let's talk soil amendments. This is what I'm gonna share with you. This is all things that I have done myself. Cheap, free, easy stuff you might most likely have around your house. Gives you decent results, helps you maintain your soil. You can put it on with a plant in the ground already. You can put it on spring, you could put it on in fall. You could do all of these together. You could do one of them. You can do in-ground, raised beds, it doesn't matter, okay? I do have, sorry, taste testing supper. Okay, so the 100% surefire way to find out if your soil needs any type of fertilizer, nutrients, vitamins, whatever, is to do a soil test. I do not have the time nor the money to do soil testing. The only time that I would probably do a soil test is if I was getting in new dirt and I wanted to verify that it didn't have chemicals on it. Otherwise, I don't. What I do is I look at my plant. My plants are the gauge that tells me if my soil needs to be amended or not. Yes?
Can I have something to eat?
So if my plants are looking brittle, dry, falling over, floppy, if their leaves are turning yellow, if they're stunted, they should be this high and they're only this high. If I notice things like blossom end rot on my tomatoes, if I notice the leaves might be turning up like a purplish color or whatever, I base my soil amendments on my plants. Okay. All right. Your first thing is banana peels. Okay. They are good for tomatoes, peppers, squash, pumpkins, that type of things. They give you potassium and phosphorus. Plants that need potassium have yellowing leaf edges, weak stems, and your fruit, like on your tomatoes, it might fall off real easy, okay? Before it's ready. Phosphorus, reddish colored leaves, like a burnt orange colored leaf, purplish leaves, really slow and stunted growth, and poor root development, which you can look at the bottom of your plant, and if it's not standing straight up like it should be, and it's kind of floppy in that vicinity, that's a good indicator of poor root development. Okay. You can take your banana peels and you can chop them up real little. I prefer the slurry method. Basically, I put some water in it and boil them a little bit. So it's kind of like you're making a broth out of it. And then I take it and I take an immersion blender and I just, and you can put it on your garden. Something that we have an abundance of, milk. Okay. It adds calcium, which calcium helps prevent blossom end rot on your tomatoes and peppers, just so you know that. Okay. Gives a little bit of nitrogen and phosphorus. Good for tomatoes, peppers, squash, cucumbers, and leafy greens. So kale, bok choy, things like that. This is one where yep. What? Oh, you got eggs. Just a second. Sorry, I had to grab the eggs. So the milk is one of those things that you can dilute. You can do 50-50. I prefer like a 70-30 with my milk. That one's kind of your own preference, I guess. Signs of calcium deficiency would be the blossom end rot, curling leaves, and or weak stems. Okay. Another one, Epsom salt. Okay. This adds magnesium and sulfur. It's good for tomatoes and peppers, potatoes and carrots. Now, I have never noticed this, but a lot of people have said that when you put Epsom salt around your peppers, that it makes your sweet peppers sweeter. I don't know. I can't confirm nor deny that one. 1.5, 2 total tablespoons per gallon of water. Mix it up, let it dissolve, put it on the base of your plants. Okay. Signs of the deficiency for magnesium is yellowing between the leaf veins. So if you have leaves, you know, the center of it, if it's yellowing in the center before the edges, that is a sign of magnesium deficiency. Sulfur deficiency would be an overall yellowing of your plant. That's not necessarily pinpoint to just the leaves. It's the stem, the leaves, everything. Even new growth would be turning yellow. Okay. That's for Epsom salt. Okay. The next one would be coffee grounds. Okay. Used coffee grounds. Black coffee. I guess you could use flavored coffee grounds because sometimes we have, but I don't know that it's necessarily highly recommended. Just straight black coffee. Doesn't have to be a certain name brand. It could be the cheap old whatever. Okay. It gives nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. It's great for leafy greens, root crops, tomatoes. It also is really good for plants that like a lot of acid, such as blueberries. Blueberries are a really good one that like that. Nitrogen deficiency, pale or yellowing leaves. Again, we had already said the phosphorus and the potassium. So these, so that's for the coffee grounds. Now, can you use regular coffee and put it right on your plant? Yes. However, it's not going to give you the same effect. You would straight black coffee, no cream, no sugar, dilute it 50-50, pour it around your plant. This is going to give your plant a jolt. It is not going to be a continuous soil amending. It is just a, holy crap, my plants are yellow and I need to do something. Let's try this real quick and see how it works. Okay, if after a couple of days you notice your plants are starting to green up more, what have you, okay, you might really want to look at putting the actual grounds down in your soil. Okay. Another thing we do is the ash from our fireplace. So when you're using ashes from your fireplace, try to, if you are able to, try to filter out your big chunks. You want just kind of like the white and gray more than anything. But that does all of the potassium, phosphorus, magnesium, yada, yada, yada. It can also help lower the acidity level of your soil. So that's good for things, broccoli and cabbage, and garlic. Okay, so that is one that you might not need to do it as often, maybe every other year. Okay, but it is still a good option. Along with this whole soil amendment thing, a lot of people say you have to do crop rotation. So you can't plant corn in the same spot 2 years in a row. Can't plant tomatoes in the same spot. Yes, you can. Okay. As long as you are making sure that your soil has the nutrients that it needs for the plant that you are putting there, it doesn't matter. Okay. Now, I probably would go no more than 3 years of the same plant in the same area. But again, if we're living in the real world and you are small garden type thing, you might not have the space to be able to do such shifting of your plant. Excuse me. Just try to keep up with your soil amendments. So anyway, that is it for my garden tour and for Rebel Gardening. I hope you guys learned something. Any questions, go ahead, feel free, put them in the comments or catch us on. And we will talk to you later.